For me, you really deserve a big round of interview, so you did great. Really, you did a job. Thanks a lot. For 100 times in your life. So, good job. You did perfect.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Although we have progressed a lot in techniques in replacing animals, they are still needed for certain purposes, and that is why the 3Rs principle is of such great importance in further replacing animals, and when animals have to be used, to do so in an ethical, correct way.
I think that's an interesting discussion, and the earlier you start thinking about it, you position yourself. Because in the end it is society which determines whether we can or can't do animal experiments in science, or let's say under which prerequisites, under which circumstances we can actually do an experiment. Because in principle it is cruel to harm an animal, there must be a good reason. And that's a very interesting discussion, I think, also for young people, because they can understand that there is things which are not black and white. These are things where you can develop an ethical position and you can develop a pragmatic position of getting new drugs and other things. Yeah.
Researchers use animals in science because they want to make sure that the drug, medicine, or whatever food item isn't harmful to humans, and they want to make sure that it works the way that they want it to work.
So the project was 3 steps. First, we did a workshop, and the workshop was made together with the European Commission and the European Schoolnet. And the idea is to teach teachers how to educate kids about the 3Rs. And then the second step was to make the event where the different speakers were talking about one of the different Rs. After the event, the kids will gonna receive a manuscript about the different 3Rs, and the kids are gonna act as reviewers of the manuscript.
The 3RCC wants to be the driving force in advancing 3Rs in Switzerland, both on research and innovation, but also on the side of education and communication.
Reduce, refine, replacement.
Replacement is replacing the animals with other options, maybe like cells.
In particular, in my presentation, I discussed the art of reduction. From the perspective of using imaging technologies, the imaging technologies allows you to look inside the animal without causing minimal harm into the animal, which is really good because it means that we can follow the animal from the onset of the disease and see the progression of the disease and how it responds to any treatment or any medication.
Refinement is like trying to make it so that the animals feel less pain or are less stressed.
A lot of people, a lot of scientists are working together to make better science, but we are also working together to make sure that if we have to use animals, that the animals are always very well looked after.
Let's say you inject a mouse or inject a rat, and once if they don't die, what do you do after that? What do you do with them?
That's an interesting point.
I think we really need to approach the children with these difficult questions, because there's no difficult questions, possibly there's difficult answers. But these are the reality, and working with animals, laboratory animals, and doing research with animals is challenging for everybody. And we shouldn't hide away from this. On the contrary, we need to be very open, and we have the commitment by the regulators to be very open about it, and we must talk about this. We must talk at all levels, with the children, with elderly people, with youngsters. This is a must, and we need to promote this.
So I work on all 3Rs theoretically, but practically I worked in the past mainly on refinement, so improving the welfare of animals involved in animal experimentation and reducing their suffering.
I think refinement is when you do try not to harm the animals when you're doing the testing, so then the animals' life wouldn't be in harm or anything.
When you do your experiments, how do you understand if the mouse is not feeling good about it or feeling bad about it?
I'm relatively optimistic. I think I have to be in my position, and I think there will be a day where we can replace or reduce animal experimentation significantly. I'm not sure if that is soon or if that will be a complete replacement, but I think we can make a lot of progress. There's a lot of potential still to reduce animal experimentation and replace them with other methods. And for those animals that remain, I think we should strive to have the best living conditions.
Replacement is when you basically stop using animals and use other things such as computer models and petri dishes with human cells or animal cells.
Since they use mice and rats, they're not entirely like us, so sometimes results from mice or rats are not going to be the same from results from humans. Yes. So that is one disadvantage.
Some examples of what could be used to replace are parts from slaughterhouses, cells, or scientific or electronic devices that are similar.
I think it is important that humans, patients and consumers and their safety, they come first, but animals don't come second. It is important that we do our work in the most ethical way possible, in the least harmful way when we are deciding to use an animal, but that we always strive for really replacing it.
We also, during the development of the project, we contact also Altertox. Altertox is a company that has done a lot of education projects in the past, especially with adults, but also with kids. So we approached them because they have, they could give us a good advice on how to interact with the kids, and they give us a lot of advices about how we can engage the kids into the activities.
So Altertox vision is to make alternative to animal testing the new normal, to make people better scientists, and to make scientists' voice heard. The implication of Altertox was to take part of 2 activities after the speaker presentation, and during this activity kids played a board game and went into the different steps to the development from the evaluation of an alternative method to animal testing.
I think one difficult thing when preparing the presentations was to make the content easy, understandable, but still interesting. But the process actually was quite nice also for me, because I could present my own research field with a little bit more fun and a little bit more pictures and graphs and comics, so that was really enjoyable.
The students being involved in live events is the way that they can interact with scientists. We sometimes hold them on a slight pedestal that they are some kind of different type of human, but to be able to actually see that they are normal people and that they themselves could become those people in the future, I think has been a very valuable experience for the students.
So when we were organizing the event, we thought that Frontiers in Young Minds could be a perfect partner, because they have been working for a really long time with kids, and they produce scientific material for young audience. So they were the perfect match for this project.
So the vision of Frontiers for Young Minds is that we are providing not just open access, but intellectual access. And that means free, amazing science for all kids aged 8 to 15 all around the world. So they're both core concepts and new discoveries. And we don't just publish content that scientists think is accessible for this age group. We actually involve our young audience as peer reviewers to make sure not only that it's accessible for their peers, but that they are actually involved in the content and learning to think critically.
Also, the good thing to have these manuscripts is that it can be used also for didactic material in the schools, and because the language is adapted for kids, it could be really useful to spread to teach the concept.
I think it is important that kids learn about science in general, the peer review process obviously being a part of that, and for younger kids, but also for a general public to get a better understanding of how science works, I would say has an impact on the trust in science, and to build that trust is of importance not only among younger kids, but also for a general public.
The journal which the students have been involved with, the thing which we like most is that they feel that they've contributed in some way, that they are part of a bigger whole rather than what's just going on in the classroom. We as teachers can talk to them endlessly about how wonderful science is outside of the classroom, but by actually taking part in this process, they get to see it firsthand. And that, for me, is invaluable.
We want them to learn to understand the value of scientific validation of information, and to also learn themselves to think critically, to be able to review the resources, do their own research, understand it and make their own decisions about what is being told to them.
I really enjoyed the experience. It was really, really fun and very interesting. And if you're a scientist and you think you could prepare your content in a way that it's interesting for kids, I can really recommend to do that.
It's important to teach ethical principles early on, and that goes not only for 3R's principle, but also for obviously other principles, ethical principles that we follow in society. So I think this comes along with a larger package of ethics that younger kids should be taught in school.
First of all, to the children, to the kids aged 8 to 15 or any other audience watching this video, knowledge is power. So you are already powerful in the world and you will become more so. So take this opportunity, take this knowledge and find out everything you can, because it will help you later in your life when you are ready to become the scientists of tomorrow and run the world.
The project is going to keep evolving in the future to keep approaching science and the 3R concept to kids all over the world.